During the last leg of the heresy, humanity fought for its life against armies moved into place by the Chaos Gods. This time is known as the Siege of Terror. In this video we look at how, after Horus and the Emperor fight the warp energies, returning to the immaterium reveal places in the warp, old and new, and look at what that tells us, what happened to the gods in the warp after the belief that shapes them is no longer there. Well, we have a little excerpt from the End of the Death Part 3 that might shine light on this, plus interesting places in the warp from both Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy. So welcome friends to another 40k video, and shall we begin? For context, Horus and the Emperor have just finished their fight, and the warp energy the Chaos Gods had lent to Horus and infused into Terror is going back down the Chaos hole, and when this happens we get some descriptions of where it goes. Terror is the heart of this cataclysm. The warp streams out of it like blood from a butchered hog, strung up by its heels. They slowly and cruelly shred apart, causing mutual harm, bleeding from the torn tissue that has grafted them together, leaking from the fissures where their chimerical fabric was conjoined. The desert of gods, where no idol is permitted to stand, sags and pours away like sand, down the throat of an hourglass. The unquiet realm of the dead and the damned, the lost and the psychic, part ways. The dry bone beds of fossil gods reduced to ash. They blow away as the anemic unlight fades. So those two references are where we're going to start. They are our focus. They could be the same realm at different stages, or separate realms. An idol is a dedication to a god, so you might have a squid head for Cthulhu, for example. So there seems to be forgotten ancient gods. They exist somewhere in the warp, and they are dead, abandoned, fossilized. An idea no longer empowered or wanted. A graveyard of them, maybe dormant or frozen in its last throes of life, lacking life and energy to do much more. The gods become a wasted product of abandoned faith. We know from Ashes of the Imperium that when a demon is killed in the materium, perma-killed, it's also dead in the warp, no matter who worships it. Those cries will go to not be answered. They will receive no answer. There will only be silence. Here it almost feels more like the decay of energy they gain from their followers, a collapse of that for some reason in the materium. Think of our world and all the religions, so many have existed over so long, and this is them plus every Xenos who ever put their claws together to speak to something separate to itself. Here, with what little is left of them, they are washed away within the returning tides of the warp, but it shows they did exist. With so much of the warp being described as tides, perhaps there is some depth to the warp, where they all gather, the lost, the forgotten, some level at which they rest in and exist, forming this desert. Space hulks are formed by the tides of the warp, parts of ships that get pulled together. Perhaps something similar here. Or they fall to a certain level, become psychic sediment. Now the text this is taken from also has references to other places in the warp, so let's make some sense of them as we go through. Within the warp many places are constructed. From the mines of the materium, the march of fortress, burns on the fringe of nothing. It seems to be a reference to Warhammer Fantasy. There, they have it down as a domain of Slaanesh, and it's surrounded by blasphemous trees. Use your imagination there. Nearer the fortress there are the remains of a battle between Slaanesh and Khorne, and at first you will start well-mannered, raising your cup to the Lord of Pleasure. But the longer you stay, the harder it will be to resist his call. Kalistar shatters loose, its impossibly artifice towers swaying. This is a elder city, now derelict and a hub of the Webway once, maybe a port city like that of the Dark Eldar's Comora. Due to the way the city was built, it would twist the perceptions of the human eye. Part of it is made of many bridges, and it's believed by the members of the Mechanicum that if you fell off one, you'd reach old age before reaching the bottom. It also borders a man-made webway the Emperor once planned to use. The unquiet realms of the dead and the damned, the lost and the psychic part ways. At the crossroads of inertia in Yugi-Bielak is how I'm going to say it. It is another place in the webway. Here time flows backwards. The Eldari were made by the Old Ones. The Old Ones made the webway, and the Eldari did not want to mess with the properties of this place that their creators had put into place. It's mentioned in one of the earliest 40k novels, the Inquisition trilogy. The energy also impacts the warp itself. The psychoplastic flues and conduits of the webway creak and vibrate. Other realms do not survive the wrenching transition of all. islets of exoplanar matter, and the archipelagos of haunted warp stars combust or implode. Exoplanar, as well as being a general term for a type of weapon used by the Dark Mechanicum during the heresy, is also a term that refers to a place outside a certain plane, so some of this bleeds over into other dimensions, I assume that are not the warp. Now for the worm-eaten fens of desolate Shabek, grey and forlorn, dissolve in the mist, rancid, superheated steam swallows the twilight glades and pain forests of shunned long woe, reducing it in moments to putrescent mush that drips into the dark abyss. Pain forests to me says Slanesh, but I can't find a specific reference amongst them other than the realms being affected within the warp by the warp energy. And the text continues. At this place called Somnopolis, the library of the lost and mislaid dreams, perishes in a raging inferno and is never more remembered. I really like here a name placed for a specific type of memory. I wonder if some mention of the lost Primarchs might have been there before it was lost itself. The next one, the inevitable city, unseen by human sight for centuries except to that of the saintly or the insane, shelves away a tilting continent and, over a period of 8 hours, slides back into the midnight of the Imperium, like some spectral parody of old Atlantis. It leaves a few parts of itself behind, tucked into lost corners and hidden dim edges. Now this city, it mentions, as a place in the heresy, in the end of the death, is manifested by the Chaos Gods to honour Horus, who is nearing a victory. It overlaps with the Immaterium as the Chaos Gods slowly sink Terra into the warp. Such is the cross-rip that even the Emperor's palace on Terra is affected and becomes part of the city, and as with early references, it also mentions this place in Warhammer Fantasy. It was a place called the Chaos Waste in the north, if I remember. It lures people to forever trap them within its depths. Demons from all 4 chosen gods can be found there. So the idea has a few cross-references with 40k, which I like. So those are some locations within the warp. I like those little ties to fantasy and the Webway, etc. Even one of the earliest 40k novels, and we get feeling for a number of places within the warp itself, even though for its first time being mentioned. One thing I wonder for the inevitable city, and this is pure speculation, could it have been where the Emperor met the Chaos Gods when he went into a portal on Molech and returned, having stolen their fire, and it's believed he made some bargain with them as well. And could it also be where Horus went to be trained before returning, having proven himself to the Chaos Gods? It's a place that would make sense, for we have 2 references of it being a place where all the Chaos Gods or demons of those gods can appear. So let me know what you think to these locations in the warp. Are there any other little references I missed? Are there interesting places in the warp? Other failed concepts or places where dead gods may lie you'd like me to cover? Don't be shy, drop me a comment down below and I look forward to speaking with you there.